Shockmaster!
All right.
The Shockmaster!
I told you.
Now, there have been some legendary gimmicks over the years, and some gimmicks are so good that it's hard to imagine a wrestler with, well, any other gimmick. For instance, The Undertaker, Kane, Mr. Perfect, Kurt Angle and the $1 Million Man all had memorable gimmicks that not only lasted the test of time, but as a result had a successful career out of it. On the flip side, there are sadly instances where a wrestler's gimmick is so bad that it can actually destroy their career. The gimmick is so poorly received that there's simply no coming back for that superstar, and whatever they try to do to save their career and their position, they simply can't. But which gimmicks were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 gimmicks that destroyed a wrestler's career forever. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. Mike Awesome, various gimmicks. Yeah, they were all terrible. And Mike Awesome was one of ECW's top stars, and was often referred to as the 300-pound luchador, as the moves Awesome could do in the ring were incredible for someone of his size. He attained lots of success in ECW and would win the world title on 2 occasions. This was certainly someone that any wrestling company would be lucky to have, particularly in the early 2000s. Thus, when Awesome signed for WCW in 2000, fans expected WCW to push him to the moon. He could have been the next big star for WCW, and they could have positioned him in top feuds with the likes of Sting, Goldberg and DDP. Instead of pushing Awesome to the moon, Creative decided to give Awesome 2 gimmicks, and both were downright ugly. One of his gimmicks was known as that 70s guy that saw Awesome act like he was from the 70s, but the crowd had zero idea what to make of the gimmick. His more infamous gimmick was known as the Fat Chick Thriller, and this involved Awesome attempting to sleep with, well, overweight women. Awesome had so much potential, so it was a massive shame to see WCW utilize absolutely zero of his true talent. The image that he perceived in ECW would be ruined forever. Number 9. Brodus Clay as the Funkosaurus. In 2011, WWE began to air vignettes promoting the return of Brodus Clay to WWE television. Before his extended absence, Brodus had been the bodyguard of Alberto Del Rio and was expected that he would return as a monster and wreak havoc throughout WWE. But when he made his return to television, he debuted a brand new gimmick and would become the Funkosaurus. This gimmick involved Brodus dancing to the ring alongside Naomi and Cameron, and had the idea that he was from Planet Funk. Does Flash Funk come from there as well? Although the gimmick was downright awful, WWE persisted with it and even gave Brodus a segment on Wrestlemania in 2012. As the gimmick ran its course, they tried to do everything in their power to make the gimmick work. They would turn Brodus heel, but this did little to save his career. Brodus would be released in 2014 and he would never wrestle for the WWE ever again. In relation to how the gimmick came about, Brodus discussed the idea for the gimmick during an interview with Wrestling 365. He revealed, "Seeing me in the back cracking jokes and just being myself or whatever, the boss said, 'Are you sure this is the right way we want to go?' I said, 'So what if we do this instead?' I was kind of surprised and kind of nervous and didn't know if I could pull that off, as the dancing stuff really isn't who I am at all. But cracking jokes with a smile, I do that all day and joke around with the boys all the time. I'm always running my mouth and stuff, talking trash, things like that, but I never really thought of myself as a dancer." Number 8. Matt Morgan, stuttering gimmick.
Madison Square Garden has never seen anyone quite like Matt Morgan.
When Matt Morgan resurfaced in 2005, WWE believed that his size and ability alone would get him over with the fans. They wanted Morgan to have a stuttering gimmick, and as you can imagine, it fell completely flat. According to Morgan, he absolutely hated the gimmick and revealed that Vince McMahon believed he could pull off the gimmick, that it gave him an Achilles heel. The gimmick ultimately ruined Morgan's WWE run, as he would only last a few months in the company following his reappearance in 2005. Morgan's stuttering gimmick was a classic case of Vince putting a gimmick on a superstar to make himself laugh, rather than create a successful character in WWE that could actually make some money. Number 7. Paul Burchill. I fancy my sister gimmick? I don't know what else to call it. Paul Burchill had a total of 2 infamous gimmicks during his run in WWE. One of his gimmicks was that he would become a living, breathing pirate. Now, although the concept was creative, it failed to get over to the degree WWE wanted, and fans found it to be a little bit too childish. Vince McMahon pulled the gimmick as he somehow didn't know the Pirates of the Caribbean movie existed, and he decided to come up with a new gimmick. Somehow, the second gimmick idea was even worse. Burchill will be paired with his on-screen sister, Katie Lee, and the two would work a storyline where it was heavily implied there was a relationship between the two. It was extremely bizarre, and it was ultimately cut short when WWE transitioned into a PG product in the summer 2008. Number 6. Perry Saturn, Moppy. Perry Saturn was one of the best all-round workers in ECW and WCW in the late 90s, so when he joined the WWE in 2000 alongside Guerrero, Benoit and Malenko, it was expected that Saturn would have a solid and successful run in the company. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case. Although Saturn's run started off strong, it wasn't before long that Saturn would be given one of the most unusual gimmicks in WWE history. Following receiving head trauma during a match with the APA, Saturn began to act incredibly different. He would become more erratic, and for some reason he fell in love with a mop known as Moppy. It's believed that the gimmick was given because of his full-blown shoot with Mike Bell, nearly resulting in serious injury. It would all come to an end after Raven destroyed Saturn's beloved Moppy in the wood chipper. The gimmick would come to an end following the match, and Saturn would really never have another chance at success in WWE ever again. He would be released in 2002 and would never make a return to the company. Number 5. Fred Ottman, the Shockmaster. Fred Ottman had a relatively successful career in WWE between 89 and 93. He would have two different gimmicks during his career, the most famous of this being Typhoon, as he would join forces with Earthquake to create the natural disasters in what would be a well-regarded tag team combination. In 93, Ottman decided to join WCW, and instead of using the gimmick similar to those he used in WWE, WCW would put a brand new gimmick on him. He would become the Shockmaster. At this point in time, I don't think we need to explain who is the Shockmaster, as you most likely seen him in just about every botch video possible. The gimmick, however, was dead within the first 5 seconds of him being on WCW television. They persisted with the gimmick, but fans simply couldn't take it seriously, and by January of 1994, he was gone from WCW completely. He would never resurface in WCW ever again. Number 4. Vito, a crossdresser. Vito would make his WWE debut in 2005 and initially would be presented alongside Nunzio in the new version of the Full-Blooded Italians, but it wasn't too long before Vince McMahon had other ideas for the former WCW Tag Team Champion. He would randomly begin to wear a dress on television. Naturally, a wrestler can wear whatever they choose as attire, but there were a few issues with the gimmick. As part of the gimmick, Vito would put his opponent's head under the skirt in a rather suggestive manner. Additionally, the gimmick was often criticized by heels on the show who claimed that a man shouldn't be wearing a dress. The criticisms and comments made towards the gimmick have aged terribly and wouldn't be found in WWE's product today. Although Vito didn't have much success after taking on the gimmick, he does actually refer to the gimmick as one of his best gimmicks ever. Speaking to Wrestling Inc., Vito revealed, "When you're a good worker or a great wrestler, I was polished, I had the experience and I had the know-how. Maybe people can understand this. When Dusty Rhodes was given the common man, they put him in polka dots and said it was a rib. So they put Vito in a dress, and some say it was a rib. Dusty made it the best gimmick ever, and I made the dress one of the best gimmicks ever." Number 3. Albert is Lord Tensai. Following a successful and acclaimed run in Japan, Matt Bloom, known to WWE fans as Albert, would agree to return to the WWE in 2012. For his return, he would become a character known as Lord Tensai, where he would wear a traditional Japanese warrior outfit to the ring, and his prior gimmicks such as Albert and Ain Train wouldn't be mentioned. But unfortunately, this led to fans constantly chanting Albert at him. Nevertheless, Tensai was pushed hard. He would secure wins over John Cena and CM Punk, but as the crowd reactions got worse, his push slowly died down. Before 2012 was over, Tensai was pushed down to the lower mid-card, where he would be presented as a comedy act before his retirement in 2014. Number 2. Nick Dinsmore as Eugene. Eugene was one of the WWE's more controversial characters. Debuting in 2004, Eugene would act as the nephew of Raw GM Eric Bischoff. And on the surface, that seems like a great gimmick to have. The issue was that it heavily implied that Eugene was special needs, and as a result, his entire character and storylines were built around this implication. A lot of fans found the gimmick highly offensive, and the gimmick lasted a few years before it was dropped entirely. Eugene was never repackaged as another character. And number 1, DDP, a stalker. Diamond Dallas Page was one of the top stars of WCW. He won the WCW title a total of 3 times during his career and had a number of notable matches and feuds with the likes of Macho Man Randy Savage and Goldberg. When they acquired WCW in 2001, DDP decided to accept a buyout and joined the WWE in the hopes that he would become a top star in the company. But instead of the DDP that was so popular in WCW, WWE fans instead got DDP with an entirely new gimmick. He would become a stalker, and he would stalk The Undertaker's wife in one of the worst storylines ever. The gimmick and storyline made little to no sense, and the logic behind it was that DDP wanted to make the most impact possible. The gimmick was even responsible for DDP losing to Sarah on television, which was ultimately the last time fans took DDP seriously as a credible threat. The gimmick was universally hated by fans and critics alike, and DDP would never recover. They would attempt to repackage DDP as some kind of motivational speaker, but this did little to save the career of the former WCW champion, and he would be released by WWE in 2002. But there you have it, folks. 10 gimmicks that totally destroyed a wrestler's career forever. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.